Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Midlife Reinvention podcast. I'm really pleased to introduce today's guest as Marie Cruz. Marie is a certified grief guide. She's a life coach, speaker, and a best-selling author who has spent over 15 years helping women step into their power. After navigating profound personal loss, along with divorce, entrepreneurship, and her own midlife identity shifts, Marie turned her lived experience into a powerful body of work centered on inner healing and self-trust. What I love about Marie's work is something I often say here on the podcast. The answers we're searching for aren't something somewhere outside of us. They're already within us. And sometimes we just need support to uncover them. So, Marie, I'm so glad that you're here today. And how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. And I just want to thank you for providing the space for me to tell my story, but also to just spread the message of hope and healing.
Yes, that's so important. Marie, you've described going through multiple transitions, like you went through divorce, you had some loss, and you're entrepreneur and perimenopause and all of those. And then just for listeners who are going through these same kind of transitions, at what point did you realize that this just wasn't just a change, but kind of a reorganization of who you were? How did you even begin navigating that without kind of losing yourself, or are you still navigating it?
Well, I'm still navigating the perimenopause. I'm pretty close. I'm pretty sure I'm in menopause, but what I'm understanding is it's not over just when your body stops cycling. So yeah, I am still in it, but especially with profound loss, you don't get out of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm still navigating all of it. But to answer your question, the thing that really shifted me, it was when I realized, oh, this is a reorganization of my identity, was this perimenopause stuff. Looking back, I understand physiologically and psychologically and emotionally what happened, that I was reorganized when I lost my son. Our identity shifts with these big changes, but perimenopause, I think, was the biggest. And that sounds so crazy to even say out loud because I lost my son.
Yes.
I think what happened to me in perimenopause is that my normal, high functioning, push through, just go get it done brain kind of went offline. And that was so disorienting because I didn't know what was happening. So when I lost my son, I had years of therapy and recovery, like healing from life and trauma and all kind of things. And I knew what was wrong when I lost him. I knew where to look. I knew, okay, read books on grief, process the grief, allow the pain. I knew I had systems in place, my journal writing process, that could walk me through back to myself. That wasn't the case for perimenopause because I didn't even know it was a thing. I didn't even know what was happening to me. And I remember thinking, why couldn't I lose my mind when I lost my child? It would have made more sense and the world would have probably given me more of a pass. I know I'm speaking about this as if I'm maybe missing the gravity of losing my son and how it rearranged me. But the thing that I began to understand, the complexity of identity reorganization, the thing that brought on, or my realization of it, was perimenopause. And then I could go back and see, oh, this happened to you in your divorce. This happened to you when you lost your mom and when you lost your son. I just didn't know because I was just plowing through. I was just making it. I was surviving.
Yes. Well, firstly, I want to say I'm so sorry for that profound loss for your son. And that's something that I can't even imagine. So I really I'm sorry for your loss. And I understand what you're saying in that you said that you knew what was, like, you kind of knew where to turn to when you had, when you lost your son. Whereas perimenopause, it's like, it's a little bit of an unknown, right? Like even though there's support, it's just, sometimes just women just don't know where to find it or how to get it. And you mentioned even before we got on, like about this fogginess and this disconnectedness. And then I think women immediately assume that there's something wrong with them. Right. And
I spent 2 years thinking I might have like a brain tumor or early onset dementia. That's how much my mind was impacted. And for that long, I just kept thinking something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. And because there was no framework for me that this could happen to me because of hormones. I didn't know. And I thought, how did I get to this age and not know this information? Like, so that part was so scary.
Yes.
A nameless thing that could be just like mental illness or,
yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yes. Yes. So how do you, through your own experience, right, through this experience of not knowing or immediately assuming that something is wrong, how do you actually help women identify the difference between like, I'm broken, something's wrong with me, and versus I'm actually in transition, I'm actually going through perimenopause, I'm going through these things? How do you identify or help them delineate the difference between these two things?
I always just go back to my own experience of I had to check the boxes. I had to evaluate, is what's going on with me psychological? Is it physiological? What was perplexing was I had all this brain fog and all this disconnection, this kind of observing myself phenomenon going on, but I was very still functional. So from my experience, it was like, okay, these are the things happening. Dementia will look like this. So I went to the information piece. Like if it were dementia, it would look like this. If it were a brain tumor, it would look like this. What does it look like? And what are the other things it could be? And then after fighting with it for a while and looking and feeling really crazy, but then functioning so well, I had some physical symptoms that really cued me in. And I went, oh, this is for sure hormonal, at least on some piece of it. It was hormonal. So I was like, okay, well, if it's hormones, and I had become so desperate that I was like, I don't even care what y'all give me, but I can't stay in this. I can't function like this, because through all the things I had been through in my life, and I had been through many, I had never suffered with depression, high functioning anxiety my whole life, but never depression. And I was getting depressed, and I knew my background's in psychology. So I knew what it looked like and what I was feeling, and had some thoughts that were scary. So once I got the cue, like, okay, Marie, this is hormones. Now I know where to target, at least to get my mind back on track and to learn how to navigate the new Marie that I'm calling Marie 3.0, because we have our early selves and then we have our motherhood years, or our mid years, not midlife, but, and then we have what I'm calling 3.0. We have the next Marie, who's not caregiving for children, who's just in her own world, living her own life. And right now, kind of sort of reinventing who I am, or recalibrating to who I am. So that's my direct input would say, look for the physiology, look for the psychology, and then look for the hormonal.
So it's about not ignoring those things, I think, right?
Right. It's right. It's like when you, and we know, I mean, I'm deeply intuitive and introspective. So when this started setting in, I was maybe about 3 or 4 years into the loss of my son. So I was still chalking up a lot of things to that, because loss in general reorganizes us. It impacts us. But the loss of a child truly does reorganize your entire sense of self. And for me, and for the hundreds of people I've either witnessed or read about or worked directly with, so I was giving a lot of latitude to the grief process. I withdrew a lot. And this was different. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, outside of child loss, it was the most impactful thing that's happened to me, in for sure.
Yeah.
And I've been through
Yes.
a lot of things.
You had mentioned that you speak about really kind of allowing both the joy and grief to coexist with one another.
Mhm.
And that feels, I think that's interesting because many women believe that they need to fully resolve their pain, right? Before they're allowed to feel joy again. So tell me about that. And what does this coexistence actually look like in real life? How allow both joy and grief to coexist?
Well, first, I will say that I think in the beginning, so there's two groups of people I want to speak to. When you're in the beginning, it's kind of like if you imagine being in a body of water, like a beach, and the waves are coming and they're big and and let's say, even if you're a good swimmer, they're still knocking you down. They're still just taking you under, and you're kind of at their mercy. And there's not much you can do except for learn to roll in it and understanding I will come up for air. So that's the beginning. And if you're in that, there's not much you can do to escape it. Like, it's just happening. But there comes a time that you take a breath. You can catch a whole breath and you can decide. Now, I believe in those moments we have to decide, and then we decide again and again. That was my personal experience. The women I'm working with that are taking that breath and they're deciding that they don't want this. This is a very nuanced term, but they don't want the loss of their child to define them. It does define you, but you don't want it to be the only definition of you.
Right.
And so that group of people, when you're there, so not hurrying people along, right? Because it's very something you want to hold your grief. You want to hold it gentle, right? And let it be. So when we get there, when someone's ready, I would say the next idea is that we live in a society that, by and large, is just very inculcated into the statements that I believe are limiting, which are, you're never going to be okay. You can't be okay. You shouldn't be okay, because what good mother would be okay? Like, those messages are very prevalent in our society. That was my experience. And again, the experience of many of the women and the mothers that I'm working with. However, underneath that, I think when you're in the first throes of any deep grief, there feels like connection. And the connection is to them in the sorrow. And what I eventually got to was, that's not going to go away. Like, I'm still going to have moments of grief. I'm still going to look at his picture sometimes and like catch my breath, or this. Sometimes I'm imagining looking at his picture, but there are days I look at his picture and I laugh and I just, or I smile because of who he was and what I got to enjoy about his life. So that's what I mean by allowing them to coexist. But I believe that, one, you have to believe that that's possible and that you're not bad for it. And then two, you have to choose to find the path to it, because you don't just wake up one day and allow joy. The first time I felt joy, I remember immediately crumpling and then feeling so confused, like, what kind of mom? My thought was, what kind of mom could be okay? And then I thought, not right then, what I've come to is the kind of mom who, even when he was here, had joy and pain associated with this child, because that's the mom journey. that's just the journey. And so.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that I could feel the emotion there. And I love the analogy that you gave about the waves, and that really brought it home for me. And then I loved what you said about it's choosing to find the path to joy, right? So I think that all kind of comes to how we kind of maybe rewrite our internal story, right? And that is something that I think you teach. And if we're talking about grief or reinventing ourselves or whatever, it is about rewriting that internal story. And so what if a woman comes to you and says, I don't even know who I am anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where do you even start to with her? Like, how would you even advise her? What would you, or the person who's listening to this right now, I don't even know who I am anymore, whether it be because of grief or because of loss or because of identity loss or whatever losses or transitions we're going through. Like, where do you start?
Right. I think the most common term that they might use with me is I don't recognize myself.
Mm,
So the place to start for me, or what I've found and what's healed me, or let's not call it healed, what has carried me through and forward is, journaling, because I know that my higher self, or I could use another structure, like if it's a relationship with God, right? God, my higher self, is speaking to me. And often, especially in deep grief, we can't hear it. Not everybody, but the grief is kind of like, if we go back to the waves, right? It's like drowning out the things you know about yourself. So if we don't even talk about grief, like let's just talk about like midlife or empty nesting, divorce, like all those things are huge in our lives, right? I would encourage someone to find themselves on the paper. I would encourage them to write, and that the part of them that they can't hear will show up on the paper. I watch it over and over and over, and people say, I didn't even know that was there. And I'm like, that's the magic of the paper, because it opens this, I'm going to call it a portal, but not in a woo way, or let's just call it a door. I just feel like if we go back to the thing that we talked about last time, which is like all of your answers are inside, and journaling is just opening the door to what's already in there. And so when somebody says, I don't know who I am, or I don't recognize myself, or I'm lost, I'm like, she didn't go anywhere. Who you are, is still inside. She's just under the waves right now. Right.
Yeah.
And that could be any kind of waves, right? That could be hormones, that can be life change, all of it. And so my first thing would be write until you find a glimpse of her, right? And that would just literally be stream of consciousness writing, like just go find a glimpse of her. Because when you get that, it's like, oh, there I am. So that would be the first thing that I would start with. And it is the first thing I start with all of my clients. Like the first thing I recommend to anybody. And people, they throw things at me like, well, I'm not a good writer. I'm like, good, you don't have to be. You just got to be willing. Or I've never liked writing. Okay, well, you don't like where you're at either. So here's the medicine I have to offer. Here's the thing that I've watched people do that has quite literally brought them back to themselves time and again. So that's what I would recommend. Are there other ways? Of course. That would be one way. I would say just start there.
Yeah. I totally believe that, because whenever I journal, and I do it practically every day, I try to anyway, it just opens up so much that you didn't even know was there. If you allow yourself to do that, right? It really can be this tool to really understand who you are, what you need, what you want, where is this all coming from? And I love that. And right until you find a glimpse of her. I love that, what you said there. You shared something that sometimes clients say, well, I don't know. When a client says, I don't know how to do this, or like you said, I'm not a good writer, but you don't accept that. And then you ask them to guess. So tell me a little bit about that process. And why is that so powerful? And what does that actually reveal about the wisdom that we already have within us? I think there's a process, maybe the specific process you use or
Definitely
how you do it. Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely. So whether I'm in one-on-ones or I'm sitting in a room at a retreat with women, inevitably someone's going to say, I'll ask a question and I'm looking to help them clarify their own inner world. Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so I'll ask a question. They'll say, I don't know. And I'll say, I don't know is not an answer. So if you had to guess, and we keep it light. And here's the thing, again, it's just opening the door to what's inside of you. And often, no, always the answer's there. It's always there. Sometimes they aren't able to pull it out, but I'm pretty intuitive, and I would like to believe, or no, I know that I've honed this specific gifting. So I can ask another question, or I might give them, if they can't guess, but I'm going to say 80% of the time, one of their guesses is going in the direction that we need to go. And it's just like the next layer, the next uncovering, right? Mm-hmm. Not the answer, not the solution to the quote unquote problem. But if they can't guess, because sometimes we're just not able in the moment, I will say, okay, I think it could be this, this, or this. And before I say them, one of them is going to catch you. And so then when they see me do it, then they're allowed, it opens up this other arena for them to do it. Where next time they're writing, they could be like, well, to guess, it could be this, this, or this. And they allow themselves to pull it out of themselves. So it's training of sorts. And it's kind of miraculous how quickly they can learn that skill. And I'll call it a skill. So yeah, when we say, if you had to guess, I think it just opens up the same door in a different way.
Yeah.
And allows them to take a look at what could this possibly be from.
Yeah. Opening up the possibilities, right? Like even just opening the door a little bit and letting them kind of walk through it. And it's also kind of reminds me of like the 5 whys, or like, okay, why? And then like you keep on digging deeper until the answer is found, or at least it opens up the door for more possibilities, right?
Absolutely.
So the other thing that I know that you often speak about is breaking generational patterns. So how does that work? So like, let's say somebody has decided, okay, I'm going to really work on my own internal self and maybe do the journaling and figure this out. But how does that change not just her life, but what she passes forward through the generations into everyone else she comes into contact with? Yes.
I'm starting to see that more and more. So it's when we take back our truth, when we live in it, walk in it, our whole vibration, our whole energy body changes. And when one person in a relationship changes, everyone else has to change, because the dance of energies, the dance of personalities or dialogue or whatever it is we do with other human beings cannot remain the same if I'm showing up differently. So if I was to give a specific example, I have a situation going on right now with my daughter, and she's pregnant and she's in Guatemala, and we've had some back and forth. We have a long history. We're really close, but there's still history. I was very in survival mode raising her, and I was young. I was 18 when I had her. So kind of grew up together. And so when I dropped the push, I need to be there, I need to protect her. She's 33, by the way. Just for reference, because that never goes away, right?
No, it never does.
No. So I'm like, when I stopped the push, when I decided what's best for me, not for her. Remember, she's 33, not 5. It was miraculous what happened in our relationship almost instantaneously. She began to give me more information. So that's a current example. It was like it built safety. But here's the thing. It wasn't that I gave her what she wanted. I did. But the safety was built in me honoring me. And so I have another friend who has a daughter, and she's going through a lot. The mom and the daughter is going through a lot because of the ex-husband, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I keep encouraging my friend that as you heal, she will heal from your security. Like, you will feel powerful energy in your body, in your standing up for yourself, in your essence. And she's going to receive that. You don't have to turn around and say, hey, daughter, this is what I learned today. You move differently. You speak differently. You own your internal, or your not internal, but your value. You show up differently. And when we show up differently, everybody in our aura has to change. So that's what I mean. I think that's how we heal generations, because we don't then impose our wounds on our children.
Yes.
Or our parents. I mean, it can go both ways, because those are also deep relationships if our parents are still alive. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it totally does. It brings up a lot for me too, is that when you said honoring me and what I need, like, let's say from a relationship, and that kind of comes back to what I it's my time now, right? So it's not being selfish. It's about honoring what you want in a relationship, in your life, right? And then when you honor that, and going back to the energy bit, and what I talk about is this anabolic positive energy that gets created when you actually live according to what's honoring you and what you understand about yourself.
Yeah.
And then when you have that anabolic positive energy, that is automatically attracts more of that. It's,
of course,
the law of attraction, right?
Yeah.
And so then you don't even really have to speak about it. It's just, like you said, the aura, you live differently.
One of the things I've said, and I honestly don't know if I heard it somewhere or if I just started saying it, but is the most loving thing for me to do for me is always the most loving thing for me to do for everybody else. And the trick or the caveat is you have to really hone in on what's the most loving thing for you, because I was convinced that the most loving thing for me was to go be in the country when she gave birth, because birth is scary. And what if something happens and I'm 8 hours away and And it just wasn't the most loving thing for me to do for me, especially in relation with my daughter, because she was asking me not to.
That's I love that phrase, because that doesn't necessarily even have to refer to just relationships. It's everything. Like, what's the most loving thing for me, right? In every situation.
And full stop. Like,
full stop. Yeah.
What do I need? Not on a selfish level, but on a selfish level, right? As long as it doesn't negate somebody else's human experience, it is, I mean, even if you think about extreme things, like, or not even extreme, but like things that are inconvenience, the most loving thing for me to do, if I am able, is to help my husband any kind of way he needs me to help him, as long as it doesn't infringe on my autonomy.
Right.
But sometimes it doesn't feel good. I don't want to go to the store at 2 a.m. if he's sick, but the loving thing for me to do is to be a good human. That's loving for me. It's not convenient. It doesn't always feel fun or good, but it would be less loving if I said no.
Yes.
And I don't mean when somebody's crossing our boundaries. I'm talking about like when it doesn't necessarily feel cheery when we're doing the most loving thing for us. Like, I still wish that my daughter and I had a relationship that she would be like, no, Mom, I really want you there, but that's not the case. And that's okay.
That's okay.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Wonderful.
And that is the most loving thing, for me to accept what is for what it is. And I can still wish it was different, but it's not. And
yes.
And
it's a realization.
Byron Katie's work is like at the top of the things that altered me and changed me and helped me learn to turn a situation to the next side and the next side and the next side. And one of her terms is what else could be true? And that's probably one of the most expansive questions any of us could ever ask ourselves. What else could be true? Not is true, could be, because we're making up most of what we believe is true anyway.
Yeah. It's about the possibilities, right? That's the same as similar to what you said when they say, I don't even know who I am anymore, or where
if you could guess.
If you could guess. If you could guess. Yes.
And so sometimes when the women I'm working with are stuck, I'll use that. I'll say, okay, what else could possibly be true? And it's amazing that we've decided somebody's motive or their whatever. And we say, what else could be true? We could come up with 5 things easily. And I also tell them, like, sometimes our brain just needs another option to release the like clause you have in the one idea you think it is. We just need like toss it another idea. And it's like, oh, well, this concrete idea we thought was the true truth can lose its grip enough for us to examine it. Maybe it is still the truth, but we didn't even examine it because that's what our brain picked when it happened.
Yes. Wow. I love that. What else could be true? Wonderful. And what's the most loving thing for me? Wonderful. I think we could talk for a long time.
I know.
So, Marie, tell us a little bit about maybe what's next for you, anything that you want to share about your work, like where people can find you and all that good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know what's next for me is just expanding my retreat possibilities for all things that we have going on. And most of us have many, right? Pain points. And so I want to expand that. I'd like to do more of that and do some speaking engagements. And that's all. It's coming. Definitely going to write another book. It'll be nonfiction, though. My other one was fiction based on my life, but everything.
What was it called? What's your book called?
My book is called Even When She Rose.
Okay. Nice.
And that's kind of a little double entendre to a childhood nickname that I had. And that is a fiction based on my life up and through. I started writing it 7 months after I lost my son, Quentin. And it was healing and cathartic and brutal and all the things. But I've gotten really great feedback and it's gone some places. And I want to write some more. I want to write about my journaling process. I want to actually bring in some true, actual journal entries from women I've worked with, some of my own that show the process and the healing therein. And so people can find me on my website. It's mariecruz.com. Pretty simple on there. All of my social connection, my little buttons for getting on socials are there. The easiest place is mariecruz.com because everything's there. I offer free consultations. I have a journal jumpstart workshop that if somebody wants to sign up for the newsletter, they'll get access to that for free. So
wonderful. It sounds like you have a lot coming in store, and definitely encourage anyone listening to reach out, and we'll have your links in the show notes, but your website and the journaling prompts, those are always useful and helpful, especially for people who don't know where to start, right? So before we go, maybe a last kind of few words that you want to share.
One of the things that I did after I lost my son, to just keep going. And I use that because it is dramatic, because if I can use it in that scenario, anybody can use it in any scenario, right? Even when the path, or especially when the path looks very unclear. So I felt that way when when I got divorced. I was a single mom with 2 little kids and no money. I was in college again, trying to finish my degree and had to figure it out. And so, but back to when I lost my son, I remember when I got over the first maybe week or 2 of just like, you can't breathe, you can't function, it's pretty bad. I remember there was a moment that I just started to say to myself, and now I call it whispering myself home. So what I want to leave the listeners with is you have the ability to whisper yourself through anything. And so what I did was I would just moving, right? And your mind is just racing. Like, I can't believe this happened. Like, is this really my effing life? Like, I'm in it and it's coming. And I would just like touch myself, like touch my chest, my throat, and say, you're okay. You're okay. Not trying to make it like I wasn't hurting, but like I'm okay, as in this second I'm breathing. I'm okay. Like, or I might say, okay, I'm not okay, but I'm going to be. And so I just often wasn't out loud. It became what I whispered to myself. So I could do that in a grocery store. When you see their favorite thing and you want to crumple, I learned to do that. So I believe we all have that ability if we engage it, if we can talk ourselves through. And it can be, I didn't know how I was going to get through losing my son. It's not like I knew how I would do it. I just believed I could. And I believe that we can get through anything. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is just to remember that we tend to look outside of ourselves for the answers. And listen, our answers are embedded in other people, in books, in things. But what you need next will reveal itself if you continue to ask yourself, what do I need next? What's the thing I need next? And I think the easiest place to find that is within a journal. Not always for everybody. I'm not saying it's the only answer. So I think if you can remember those two things, then at least you'll have hope and you'll be empowered to keep going. Because if you just don't quit, your answers are going to show up in some form or fashion and you'll find your way.
So just keep going. And what do I need next?
That's right.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.